table. And I am joined by what makes me more than proud, the mayor of Atlanta, the Honorable Keisha Lance Bottoms. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to see you. Thank you for having me.
No, you're always welcome. You're a member of, a family member here at Rolling Out. But I just want you to know how proud and our prayers are with you and your family. Little housekeeping. You know that every woman around the country, that's in every city, calls you by your first name. I mean, I think you have the same issue as people say, well, Barack, and they say Keisha. Oh, no, and then they catch themselves and they say, I mean Mayor Keisha. How's that feel?
They certainly could call me worse. So I appreciate it. That's my name, always will be.
Yeah, now I think they feel like they personally know your leadership has made us all proud. I guess for housekeeping, how are you and the family doing since you have been very honest and candid about the presence of the virus in your home and your family?
Thankfully, we're doing good by the grace of God. We don't have underlying health conditions. My husband had it, he caught it, and it was pretty bad for him. But he is in the demographic, African-American man over 50. It was scary to watch it take him to his knees. I've never seen him as fatigued as he had been over the past week. My child and I, asymptomatic. I hit a wall every afternoon and want to go down for a nap. But I don't know if that's COVID or just the stress of being mayor. But other than that, we're doing good, and we all seem to be getting to the other side of it. So I'm grateful for that.
It seems as though the lens that you've had to wear has been constantly changing. I mean, it started out, we all were imagining that there was just COVID. But then all of a sudden, the pandemic as it related to racism and then protest. So you've had to adjust your lens every single day. What's that like?
Well, welcome to being Black in America. How many times do we have to switch it up because circumstances call upon us to do that, and you don't have a choice. You either rise to the occasion or you fall down and fail miserably, and failure is not an option. So much of it has been, one, as it relates to COVID, science and data, which is what's baffling to me, that so many people won't follow it. It's clear that's the most objective information that we can have to make decisions. So you couple that with God-given common sense, and I'd like to think that we are coming out with sound decision making. And then as it relates to this movement that's happening across America, we're watching it and moving along with it and doing what we do, and that's lead and living up to our creed as the civil rights, cradle of the civil rights movement in America. And it's, I can't say that it's easy. It's extremely challenging, but by the grace of God, we're still standing and hopefully doing right by the people. But I can tell you, it's been hard. It's been a tough time in our city.
Yeah, but you're in quite a cadre group of young, phenomenal female leaders. I mean, DC, Chicago, even Ferguson. Black women are truly doing what they've always done. What does that feel like, and how do you and your peers, the mayors of these cities, communicate?
Well, we refer to each other as sister mayors, and it's a strong sisterhood. We're always encouraging each other, checking in on each other. And I was texting with Lori Lightfoot from Chicago earlier today. She's upped her census game. So I told her she's putting pressure on us in Atlanta to get our census numbers up. But that's the type of banter we exchange quite frequently. And it's great to have that sisterhood, because it's, there are layers of this. One, the challenges of leading as an African American in America, and then you layer on a woman It's a double challenge in that regard, and not a whole bunch of people can understand what this feels like other than other women who are leading in this country. So it's good to have a solid network.
Your leadership style, how would you define it?
I would like to think it's transformational. I don't even know what to call it. Transformational, because this is a time in America that's calling for change, and it's my hope that my leadership style is keeping up with where we are. I can tell you, with the challenges we've had in Atlanta, it is. We don't always associate those challenges with Atlanta. We don't always associate unrest and violence and police shootings with Atlanta. But it's this reminder that we're not immune from all of the systemic issues and challenges that are happening across America. And that requires leadership that acknowledges that and is willing to transform our policies and our expectations as a city. And so I'll leave it to other people to define it. But I think if you're not a transformational leader during this time, you're not leading.
Well, we won't leave it to other people. I think you said it best, because transformation is what's happening each and every day. And you've done a phenomenal job with that. You've definitely had to pivot at every single moment. I was speaking to the chief of police in Dallas, and I was like, I am very certain that my mayor said to everybody in the force, do not make us proud. So I believe that with everything in my heart, with everything in my being, you have said that and sent out that message. It is the same message you said about science. What do you think people are still in denial about this virus? Not wanting to wear a mask, not wanting to social distance, and just turning up.
I've given that a lot of thought, and it's difficult not to think of it in the context of race right now. That perhaps it's because Black and brown communities and vulnerable communities are getting hit the hardest, that people weren't taking it seriously and disregarding the science of it because it wasn't happening to their families and to their communities. I think as we watch this virus spread across this country, and it is hitting other communities and rural communities in particular, and places that were not on the front end, you are seeing that change, that the response is a bit different. I don't know. It is mind-boggling to me that you won't follow science, that you won't listen to national experts, that you won't listen to a Dr. Fauci who has worked under several administrations. I can't speak to it other than the fact that these people are unreasonable and have a death wish. But hopefully, if we truly want to reopen the economy, people will see that we've got to stop the spread of this virus, and you have to do it thoughtfully. Part of that is simply wearing a mask and not being in a rush to just open up as if everything is okay, because nothing is okay about the year 2020.
You say that like 100 times, because the entire community is confused based on leadership from the top. So clearly you've inherited something that as a leader in our community, we want to follow you, but Lord knows there's somebody in DC that has no desire to get people on the right path. So I see that and agree. There's a question. Melvin Carter inherited quite a issue, our brother. What did you learn from what he was going through? And have you applied anything as you guys have shared information?
So I talked about this great network of mayors, of women mayors, but there's this even greater network of mayors, period. And Melvin Carter is a Rattler, FAMU Rattler, so we know that he's amongst the best of the best. So just put that out there. But Melvin and I communicate quite a bit. And I always say that leadership is as much about leading as it is following. So when we were on the front end of COVID and rolling out a lot of programs in the city of Atlanta to try and help our communities, because we didn't know what, if any, support we would get from the federal government. A part of what Melvin was looking at in his community was some income support to his community. I talked to Melvin extensively about that. Talked to Mayor Woodfin in Birmingham about some things they were doing. We've all joined Mayor Tubbs of Stockton, California, with a pilot program on earned income. And even as it relates to what's been happening with the movement, and when we had the challenges in Atlanta, Melvin was one of the first to text me just to talk about his experience with what was happening and after the killing of George Floyd. So he's as solid as they come, always generous with his information, and just supportive beyond belief.
You know, the thing that I'm most concerned with really is going back to school. Yeah. Our young people, mothers who have to go to work, and the support. What is your vision, and what do you see? And what should parents really be planning for right about now?
It scares me too. I have one who will be in college in the fall, and I have 3 who will be going back to school. And I'm trying to figure that out too, because all of my children have various degrees of asthma, but one has it pretty bad. And I'm concerned if I send 2 back and don't send him back, what's that going to do to him psychologically? If I send all 3 back, am I putting them all in harm's way? This is going to be a tough decision. And, you know, in Georgia, we don't have that much longer to figure it out. We only have until August to make some firm decisions about what we're going to do. And I think it's going to be important for all of us to look at where these COVID numbers are, to look at what's in these classrooms, how are they setting up the classrooms to protect our kids. But the other part of that, even if we can assume our kids are okay, you got to think about the cafeteria workers and the custodians, and think about the teachers. And in my household, when my kids come home from school every day, it's my mother who's here with them to greet them. I can't do that in the fall because of concern that they may bring COVID to her. So this is gonna be a tough one for all of us. And I wish I knew exactly what the answer was to that. But I'll tell you what just upsets me so much is that we're struggling with this now. We had all of spring, we've had all of summer to get these COVID numbers down in a way, into a place that would make it okay for our kids to go back into those classrooms. And we have this country, the leadership of this country and the leadership in the state of Georgia has failed.
You say that twice. You know, it truly has been the most confusing lack of leadership that this country has ever seen. No unified message that is based on science, and it's frightening, and definitely is harming our whole economy and really the nation. So I'm with you. But there are a couple other things people want to know. And I think that for those who were there, who are actually big fans of yours, they really want to know VP, no VP. They're always proud when your name is in the hat. How do you see just even women playing a role? So that's kind of like a twofold question, because I'm always proud of you, but I know this country, and every time your name goes up, everyone is really excited. What's it feel like, and what are your thoughts?
Well, as my mother says, thank you for the rumor. The reality is this, Monson, I mean, we're a country of 330 million people, so to have my name spoken in the light of being VP, it's an honor to have my name spoken in that light. But I don't know of an election that's been more important than this election. And I was excited that Joe Biden had said that he was going to pick a woman as his running mate. I think that's important for so many reasons. I think it's even more important with this year and this election that people be excited about going to vote. My biggest concern about this election is that people will opt to stay home because we are depressed. So in 2016, we saw a suppressed vote. This year, I hate to say it, but I think we're going to see a depressed vote. And I think it's just important that we all recognize how important this election is, how important it is that we all turn out to vote. And it's going to be important that there be some excitement on that ticket. And I know that Joe Biden is going to make the best decision based on what America needs and what he needs for a person to govern alongside him. And so we'll see what happens.
Well said. Well said. Still proud. I'm with you. We got to win. I think that if nothing else, we have to win.
Above all else.
Above all else. And I think early is a play, though. We all have to go early so that voter suppression, which seemed very obvious since I live in Atlanta, and the machines weren't working in my neighborhood, and I'm in 30331. So that's a problem. So we need to go early. But let's talk about this census. You mentioned it, Lori Lightfoot, but definitely the community has to be excited. How do you feel? Where do you think we are? Is our community responding?
Well, this again has been a challenge because we can't go door to door in the way that we normally would go door to door with the census. So we're having to do it other ways. We're robocalling. We're trying to meet people on the streets and get them to fill out this census. So we're on track to do better than we did 10 years ago, but that's still not great. We have a long way to go. And I have a copy of the 1870 census where my grandmother's grandfather is on this census. He was a freed slave and he was counted in the 1870 census. And I'm looking at the census going, if he can find time to be counted and think it important enough to have his name written here, then what excuse do we have in 2020?
I think that's important. I hope that all of us come out. There is one other question that I would like to know. And for me, it's the innovation. You seem very innovative, and you have definitely supported those entrepreneurs through Invest Atlanta. Can you share with some of those programs that you brought forward?
Well, particularly with COVID, we've tried to be very thoughtful about small businesses because we know, especially minority businesses often don't have those longstanding relationships and traditional relationships with banks. So in our response to COVID, my charge to our team was God bless the child who's got his own. We set up the Strength and Beauty Fund to give grants to our beauty and barbershop owners, our CreateTL Fund to give grants to those in the gig industry, our small business loan fund. And then that's what we've done in response to COVID, but just on a daily basis, we have a Southside business manager at Invest Atlanta completely focused on trying to get redevelopment and support small businesses on the South Side. What I find with our minority businesses in particular, we don't often even know what resources are available and even know how to ask for help. So we're in the process of hiring an equity director over at Invest Atlanta to make sure it's somebody completely focused on evening the playing field as it relates to resources and business support and in Atlanta. And there's so many programs at Invest Atlanta. I just encourage people to check out their website. I think it's investatlanta.org. But just Google Invest Atlanta or put Invest Atlanta in your search engine. And you'll see all of the programs that we offer through our economic development arm.
Great job there. They used to have the Hungry Club here in Atlanta. My ask for you, just as you leave, and is how do we get a Hungry Club back, and how do we surround you and get the businesses to really, the Cokes, the Home Depots, to open their boards to those brothers and sisters who live and work here in Atlanta. I mean, the movement was started. I know it's a tough time, but I'd like to see us have some, and we can just think about it, so it's just a thought, methodology for making a bigger ask of our corporate citizens so that we all can participate and at least air it. Because when I see you, I'm proud, but I want people to know just what you're describing and for us to at least hold our corporate citizens, accountable as it relates to their boards in Atlanta.
Well, I love that you remember the Hungry Club. That's a throwback for sure. And I was reading Maynard Jackson's biography, and something that struck me was that he did not allow the city of Atlanta to do businesses with banks that didn't have diverse representation on their board. So I immediately asked for my team to give me some data points on minority representation on boards and at the C-suite level. And it's that type of thoughtfulness that we have to be aware of, because quite often we have representatives in front of our faces and we think that's representative of the company when it may be the only one in the entire company. And as we have talked about this movement, part of what we've talked about is, what does this facilitated conversation look like in Atlanta? How do we take all of the anger that we're seeing in our streets and turn it into action? And the Hungry Club used to do that. And there was, and I'm drawing a blank, there was another gathering that used to happen in Atlanta. But I think it's a couple of things, Monson. One, I think there's got to be some facilitated conversations around trauma and mental health and anxiety and depression, because all of this is a byproduct of racism in our communities. And then there has to be this conversation that helps us move the needle. How do you get a seat at the table? And how do you ensure that it's not just for a moment in time, but it's a meaningful impact with people who are representative of who we are as a city, making decisions on behalf of many of the corporations that call our city home? That's part of what we're looking at now. We've had a lot of offers to help us and just trying to get it all organized and facilitated, but stay tuned, it's coming.
Super. Well, I want to be a part of that, so I'm saying it out loud, and I am very, very proud. Continue to keep you in the prayers, and anytime you need us, just reach out. Thanks for coming on A Seat at the Table, and we love you and respect you, and see you later.
All right, thank you. Love you too. Good to see you. Stay safe.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.